Good morning, evening, or whatever time you are watching this. This first update that I want to mention, if you saw the recent short, then you are already aware of it. But recently I got the paperback for the second proof that I had to order for Secrets Below Gargoyle Cavern. As a lot of you might have seen on Twitter, for whatever reason, I kept my name the exact same. And it shows the N on here. I kept it the exact same formatting as I did on the front and then as I did on the back. But for some reason, the N in my name kept changing to K. The text file was fine. Everything was fine with it. It was just for whatever reason when it would embed and I would save it to put it up on Lulu, what had happened is for whatever strange reason it was changing the N to a K. And I couldn't figure out at first why, because I've never experienced that issue. So out of nowhere, after continuing to try to resave it a few times, I finally went, okay, how about I copy the text layer and then flatten the layer so that it is a image instead of a text. I could always delete that and, start over. But as you see, that was the fix. I just had to make it an image layer so that when the text embedded into the PDF or however was causing it to act up, then it would work right. For anyone who experiences that, it's not something that I have dealt with before, because usually when I set the text and I save it and then I save it to the PDF that I have to upload to Lulu, it works just fine. I've never had that issue. I have used this font before because this is, I think all of it is Cinzel Decorative, or however you want to pronounce that. Normally what I do is I will either, like with this, I have one font that I have no idea what the name of this font is. And then I used a different kind of Cinzel here and I altered the sizing and the thickness. With this one, I think I did the same, but then I had just altered how the end letters were looking for each, and I sometimes will play with that. Sometimes it'll be a different font combination just to give the look I like, because some fonts are so similar. Like I had this font completely different. I think it was called Assassins. I ended up wanting to be cohesive with the fonts because it's not a good idea to have like 100 different font files and versions on your books without it starting to clash. And then I always end up using the E.B. Garamond because that's what I use inside of my books. If you're ever curious, I actually will say in the very back of the book what font that I use, and it's just a font that I think is really beautiful, and it gives that kind of old-fashioned kind of look in paperbacks that I like. So it's kind of a nod to the past, and it's a great font to use. They actually have it now on Google Fonts, so you can always get it through there. But I keep the original site that I got it from in the back of all my books. This file, I also had to adjust this. You can't see it on here, but in person you can actually, you're seeing my chair behind and seeing everything in my room, but you can actually see the archway better. I didn't want it super bright, but I did want you to be able to see it slightly so that you understood the whole image was this one image being pulled over to the back. If I can do that, I like doing that, because then you get a full image all the way around. Always depends on the book. But I also had changed the image in the back because turning that other one black and white did not do it so well. And I could not stop seeing boobies. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna change this one. updates to mention. I don't need you slurping, son. Go on then. You don't want to be in camera. Don't slurp off camera. Yeah, look at your face. Now you're a mess. Updates that I do want to mention. I just passed the 15K mark on the third book in the formerly sorceress world. I've got to get myself used to saying priestess. I decided that that was the term that I was going to go with. I'm going to make the sorceress term in the world a high, like if you do the step system of power levels and stuff like that. I'm going to make the sorceress a higher level, but I'm going to make the priestess even higher level, and it's going to be a even more powerful situation that she ends up embracing, because the powers that she gets, what nobody else realizes is that the type of being that she's going to end up being can come across as human, but she is a unique individual, because what a lot of people don't realize, I don't want to go too spoiler-y into it, but what a lot of people don't realize and won't realize is that it's going to be a situation where maybe she doesn't even realize it, because right now it's the third book and she is kind of realizing the situation and at least her part in it and her life experience with it. It's going to be a situation where in the end they're going to realize that her entire life she's unwittingly known what she is and what she could do, even if it wasn't the magic part of it and the fact that she's able to control the elements she's learning, but it goes even deeper and she has connections to even more things that are what help empower her. So it's going to be where she has a huge revelation that a lot of where she's absorbing her power and a lot of where she is gaining her abilities is through life lessons, as well as her own personal journey and learning all these things, as well as what others in this situation, sorceresses, have done in the past. But because she is also trying to heal the magic before she even realizes that she heals the magic, and it goes far deeper for her and her own personal situation, then I was thinking, okay, well, this, I think a priestess would work better because of the kind of hidden meaning that the word ends up giving. Depends, of course, who's reading the word and their own interpretations, but personally, I kind of get the vibe of also that being a woman who heals stuff and isn't just about magic. And that's what she's going to be. She's not going to be just one of these other witches or warlocks or sorceresses that come along where she, oh, look, I gained powers and ta-da, let me go bam, bam, bam with my powers. It's going to go deeper than that. And it's going to have, I find myself working more with what she has been through and her experiences along with Reagan, and finding their similarities of a lot of what they've dealt with and a lot of what they discuss, and that they will realize later on. They're starting to kind of realize it now that we're in the third book, that a lot of their situations have kind of coincided. I think she's realizing it slightly before him. She's gonna just kind of start noticing how they have the same kind of connection, and there's a lot more connections between them and situations that they have followed that path that I was talking about in a recent video, where they're basically having to go through life on the same pathway. Now that I have two hands, in that video Kona was sleeping on one hand, and they're being taught all these lessons that they don't realize are also intermingling their lives and intermingling everything. Like a voice that she keeps hearing, she's going to realize there's a connection to Riegan in that voice, and a connection to, it's not just that voice that she's finding out later in this book that she's going to be hearing, and she realizes that she's hearing a lot of voices, not like, ooh, I'm hearing voices, but they're kind of guide voices. And I wanted to play more into a deeper, stronger feeling for me word than just sorceress, and I feel like that is a lot of people go for sorceress, so I kind of wanted a word that would distinguish between that and not be as a popular word. Same with enchantress, a lot of people use. I already have one of those too. I have it in my Dark Moon Dynasty universe world where Mila is the enchantress, and I have actually contemplated two where I bring in elements of that world into this world as kind of a cross that people can see, a crossover. And same with the Guardian of Life world. I do have one of the characters that will end up showing up. I'm not going to say who, I'm not going to say how, I'm not going to say when or anything, but there is a character, no, two characters, who will do a crossover from Dark Moon Dynasty universe into this world. Whether I do it with the Guardian of Life, I'm not sure, but I did think that was kind of fun because it worked into that. And then when I was working through the edits for Dark Moon Dynasty universe, I found even more information from that connection to use in this world and in the reverse. So it worked out for my little creative mind as well. So going forward, everything will be under the Priestess world. Chronicles of the Priestess. I changed out all the brand images, the covers. I have been working on the paperback right now for the short story that has been published, but it's why you haven't seen me advance any of those books, the main world books, into edits, because I am going to try to hold back as long as I can on working on that particular world for editing, because like this happened that I had zero plans in doing and I didn't think I ever would do. I ended up changing it and it was a huge change. So if I did that when everything gets published, or even just one book, that is a lot of work, because it's taken me the whole week, and I think last week too, because I was spending first a couple days trying to figure out how to create the new brand image, and I will link it up here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Then on top of fixing that, then it required putting that on all the covers, then doing what I'm doing now, which is the paperback, and I've been piddling with that and trying to decide if I want to keep the original cover or change it out. And then I have the quote images to do. I think I got everything set on my website. Should have all the words set up on the website so that if you come across it, it does not say sorceress. I did put in the interior file for the ebook and the paperback for A Granddaughter's Magical Curfew, which is the published short story in that world. I did put a note in there to make sure that anybody who has bought it or sees it going forward, they will see that this is going to be now under Chronicles of the Priestess. I wouldn't have changed the brand image and name if I didn't need to, but since everything is under Chronicles of the Sorceress and it's going to be a priestess instead, I kind of had to change everything. So I will be hopefully finishing up the paperback on that today, which is again Friday. What is this? Friday? I have no idea. Whatever today is for Friday. And then I will be doing the brand images next. You will probably see me start blasting those across social media as I finish those, because that way it filters back into the world and you can share those like crazy to help me do that. And what else I was going to mention about that? Oh, so since I decided not to advance those in edits yet and want to kind of try to put them off, hopefully, until I finish writing the world. But I mean, if I run out of books to edit and I need books to edit, I'm gonna start in on the world. Right now I have a book that I had written. When did I write it? I think I wrote it last year or 2 years ago. Could be 3 or 4 or 5. I have no idea. But it might have been last year. It was a side project. I was going to make it an erotica. But then I decided recently that I think I'm going to try to play with the story and lessen those elements to then put under my name, because I don't want anything full erotica under my name. 1, privacy. 2, the subject matter might cross lines for certain people and it's not close to the rest of my work. It's just always that fine line between where a creative wants to push the boundaries and where they do not want to push the boundaries, because we do still need to freaking make money and eat and pay bills. So, So it's just a lot of, you got to be careful where you push boundaries and how and what you want to go viral for, because the random things could make you go viral that you had zero plan on, and suddenly you are dealing with a huge issue that takes years to clean up or correct or recover from. With this book, I had decided that I might switch it up and downplay the erotica elements, because it's about a woman who gets one of those, I don't want to say it's necessarily an AI bot, because it's kind of more advanced than that. It's like a book I read recently that they some people were getting loyalty chips and implants and partial, like they're 85% human, I think was the percentage, but the rest of them weren't, or the reverse, one of the two. And I was like, this is a really good idea for showing like a more advanced robot in the future where they are more human, so that it blurs that line for somebody who might have been hesitant, even though in the story that I wrote, she is an advocate. She was a journalist and would push boundaries against people she shouldn't have, to help advocate for the new advanced, I'll say droids for brevity's sake and ease. And she would try to push back against all that stuff, and that's how this one ended up coming across her and entering her life, was because she was getting exhausted from having to do all her work at home. And this person this droid bot had come across some of her articles and started finding ways to kind of get in there and get into her world and her life. The AI kind of respected and grew fascinated with this random human who was trying to find ways to push back against all the people who were trying to destroy AI and droids. What I'm going to do with that book is bring it into an ability that it's less erotica and more, if anything, romance, because romance would be fine to put under. Or this morning there was somebody saying that Amazon had changed the rules for search and for romance and erotica writers, where if you label the work adult in any way and it fits those subjects and topics, that you may not appear in searches. I think Amazon's searches are already obnoxious, because not even for work, if you don't hit that first, like, I don't know what it is, 8 pages, the search quits. You can be scrolling and then where's the rest of the stuff? But someone had mentioned something that I thought was really fun. To fit into those rules, you could just take that scene out of your work and have it as a free extra on the site for people who want that. Delve into the romantic situation. But then I was thinking also that would be kind of a fun thing to do as an extra in general anyway, is taking out those parts or writing those parts just for those people who want to see that part of the work, and have it on, say, Patreon, Coffee. I was able to do subscriptions on my site, so now even that way I could just put it right there on my site and then put it behind the paywall, so people who are on that subscription tier, they will get those scenes if they want it. I know some are sticky about that, so you probably, even to appease those, if you wanted to, you could probably just link to a PDF. That way the people who want to see it will see it with a click, and then other people will just see the link. They don't have to be forced into seeing it and everything. A good little compromise. But I thought that was a way that I could even handle switching out this book, so that I can shift all those scenes to reach more readers and adjust everything. I could easily take those scenes, put them on my site, so that if somebody wanted all those extras that I do end up taking out, they are able to get all those extras. And then if somebody doesn't, they can have just the book and they will get a great story and great book. This book was it was either a novella or novelette. I don't think it was a short. I was going to make it a short story, but then it kept going, and I was going, there's a lot more to this story than I thought. So I'm going to probably re-edit it, even though the first stage I think I did, which is the one where I go through the paper, adjust everything, go through the paper again to make sure I got everything I wanted to adjust, and then I put it into the digital manuscript and I go from there. So I might put it back on paper, because that paper, if you ever have issues editing on digital, there's something about editing on paper that just, it allows me to see so many more issues, and I'm able to just kind of zone out everything, and it's the only focus, so it's a lot easier often for me to find issues with things and write on the paper. So that is what I think I'm probably going to work on next. You will see me bringing up the, right now I have it titled, what do I have it titled? I think it's just James AI. Might be something different. But you'll see me start talking about that if I fully go into editing and working with it. Right now I still have to finish all the updates for the Chronicles of the Priestess branding and quote images, and the paperback I am hoping to finish today. It was the cover that I was working on yesterday that got held up, and then I got exhausted and I was trying to finally get to a message that had been sitting in my inbox for a bit. As I write on a lot of social media sites, if you want advice or you want to discuss writing, you are always welcome to message me, email me, contact me through my website, use a comment here on YouTube. I don't mind answering a lot of things publicly. I've stated there are certain lines that obviously I'm not going to cross. If you want to ask advice or need help or you're struggling with something, I am always happy to help. I don't mind repeat messages. If there's something that you think of and you want to say it before you forget, I do that a lot. I'll suddenly remember something and be like, oh, I gotta say this before I forget it. I don't mind that kind of thing. You can message me a gazillion times in a row, and I am not going to be bothered in the least. There is no too much in my world until somebody is like, you need to reply right away. It's disrespectful not to reply right away. I usually try to do who comes in the inbox with a question right away if I can. Sometimes I deprioritize people to help others if I sense someone else needs the help faster. So I'm always balancing out the help and know my inbox is not in fact overwhelmed with tons of people. So that too, don't ever think you're a bother because you're a part of hundreds and hundreds of emails. Usually I'm able to reply to people right away because I don't have an inbox full of people asking for help. That's why I say just ask on a comment, because I am totally fine with answering most questions on a public comment, unless it's a situation where you want it to remain private, then that's a different situation. Otherwise, most questions I answer publicly, because then if I answer you and we're having that conversation, someone else might see it and they were too shy to ask, and it will help them out a lot. So don't ever hesitate to ask. At least me. I know a lot of authors are open like that and will be happily helpful to anybody who's respectful to us and our time. There are some who won't be. Personally, I think they're big old buttheads, but most of us are happy to answer questions and help you out so that you're not in a situation where we were, where we would spend all that time trying to find the answer, could never find the answer, and we're struggling because of it. I'm happy to help people. I just cannot answer questions about what it's like to do traditional publishing, so I will probably send you to somebody who has been, who I know might help you, or who I know would be a good person to answer the question, if it's even a question that I might have knowledge of, but I don't think I can give you the best help. When I encounter that, I usually send you towards someone who does. If there is anything you need help with, always don't hesitate to ask. And I will end that here. I hope that you have a great day. I hope that somebody is able to help you smile and you are able to help somebody else smile. And I will talk to you soon. More to come. You're still slurpy. This is a great time to clean yourself, son. Kuna is laying just out of sight. Who hates to film herself? I hate to film myself with some of those itches. I'm just gonna let it film you, okay?